So I have everybody do this all at once. It's just a thing. On the count of three, I need you guys to say, welcome to Clean and Sober Stoner. Okay?
Great.
1, 2.
Welcome to Clean and Sober Stoner.
Oh my God, that's amazing. You're the first guys, I think, to really nail the time. It was a little bit of harmony there. I'm surprised you don't have a singer.
Yeah, right? Lots of practice.
Seriously, I've been listening to The Endless endlessly. Right now, there's just so much about this album that I love.
Thank you.
I was doing a reflection, and I noticed something about your band right off the gate. Is you chose to go into the most difficult subgenre of stoner doom, which is instrumental.
Yeah.
Because you're going to sound like Joe Satriani, or you're going to sound like Bong River, or you're going to sound like Klaus Taste Satanic, or you're going to sound like My Sleeping Karma. You managed to do none of the above. There's a lot to the album that I can't wait to discuss. But I guess to kick things off, how did you guys meet? How did this project come together?
Oh, man. This was a lot of years in the making for us. Our history is long. We were in bands, I'm going to say early, mid-2000s. We were in bands together. A project that I was a part of and Terry eventually joined, and then we eventually met Eddie through the journey, and then wrapped up in 2007 is kind of where this started. We wrote a song at the end of that band's career that we didn't know what to do with, and we shelved it. And it is the song that's called Future Archives on that record. So it's made its resurgence. So we have been friends and musical partners, weaving back and forth since that project. And we, at one point, decided to start The Endless through Terry and I having conversations and really wanting to try this, and we knew it was daunting, and we just said, you know what, we're just going to do it and let's just see what happens. So it started out with Terry and I in a room. I was learning drums to be in this band, and I said, I'm going to suck until we write music. So let's just write music. Let's just go.
Yeah. So in our past musical projects, Jared was a bass player.
I'm a bass player and a drummer. So yeah, it was like the equivalency of your dad throwing you in the pool and telling you to learn how to swim. I took that to heart and said, I'm just going to do this. And it's the only way I'm going to just accelerate my progress. So that's what I did.
I got to put a pin on that one, because I have some comments about the drums, especially from from Riven. But before I did the amateur thing. Can you guys introduce yourselves to the audience out here in the world?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'm Terry, guitar in The Endless.
I'm Eddie, guitar in The Endless.
And I'm Jared, and I play drums on the album in The Endless.
So I've got everybody but the bass player. What the heck?
Yeah. I mean, our bass player is otherwise engaged today, unfortunately. So
does he know that I write for Bass Gear magazine?
Yeah. We told him, and we very much encouraged him to be able to be available today, but he cannot. His name is James, but he is here with us, just not in body.
I mean, I got my Geddy Lee biography there. I got the geezer. I'm flanked by.
If it makes you feel better, I'm a bass player as well. I do play another project as a bass player, so hey, there you go. Eddie's a bass player as well.
Nice shirt, by the way. I almost wore my Chemist. And if that would have happened, it would be one of us. We would have done rock, paper, scissors.
Did we just become best friends?
I'm sporting Ripple music tonight. It's like, notice I either wear Ripple or I wear Doomsday Prophet. It's like I need more shirts. Hint, hint. Eddie, I haven't seen you since the Fuzz Club, man.
Yeah, it's been a while, yeah.
I had no idea you could grow more hair on your face and over your shoulder. That's bloody amazing, man.
Awesome.
So you gave me a little bit of background on how this started. I know I sent you an outline, but The outline's a joke.
We knew before coming that.
That is okay.
I want to start, actually, if you don't mind, with the production, especially since we have the two guitars. Who did the recording for you folk?
Eddie, you can probably pronounce his name better than I can.
Yeah, Terry Pollock. Yeah.
Terry Pollock at the Physics Lab here locally in Edmonton.
Yeah, so he did the tracking, recorded it, mixed it, and then we actually had it mastered by this other friend of ours who we worked with in the past named Ian Martin. He's got a studio in the city here called Twilight Living Room.
Now, did you guys, I'm assuming this isn't, we throw you into a room with a couple mics. So was any of this recorded live?
No, it was all tracked. It was live at one point for sure, but it was all tracked through separate tracks. So, the usual process, you do your beds. My drums were first. I was up first, which was exciting and daunting at the same time. And then we worked out from there.
Yeah, we went like individually after and did their own thing.
Yeah.
Taking turns.
Now, did you guys go direct into the board, or were the guitars recorded with amps and your own pedals?
Yeah, it was straight into the board with the amp sims. There's a couple things I did through the amp to get some feedback, but most of it is just all amp sims. And
that is amazing to me, considering the tone that you got. So you did did some modeling and then some reamping of the signal.
Yeah. How
involved were the guitars on that, or did your engineer handle that whole thing?
He pretty much handled it. We sort of sat down and he dialed up tones for us, and we just sort of waited. We found something we liked and we just stuck with it. It was at least from my perspective, it was pretty simple. I just sat back and let him take care of it, and was pretty happy with the result, like the resulting guitar tone.
Yeah.
I'm building to the point. What guitars do you guys use?
So I used for like 90% of my tracks, I used this PRS CE that I bought in probably 2002 maybe, and used that for the bulk of it. And then for future archives, I used this custom guitar that our producer Terry had, that his dad had built, out of the no brand. It was like a Telecaster neck and this body that looked a little bit between like a Les Paul and a Godin. And and it sounded great.
It sounded great.
And Eddie, what are you using?
I was using a custom Dunlop Cyclops, and I was also using that producer's guitar and a couple things too.
What trips me about the N1, again, it's a hard sell, right? Instrumental stoner doom. It's a hard sell. It generally, like, everything sounds the same, but the way you guys wrote it, produced it, and everything, each of the guitars have a distinctive tone. They have a distinctive voice. It doesn't get boring. You've got these wicked, and I mean wicked, chord changes at unexpected rhythms. What are your influences? Where did you guys pull all this out of?
Oh, I think it came from lots of different places. Yeah. I mean, I think what was sort of the catalyst to understanding that this was a realistic possibility, that something we could do, was listening to bands like Russian Circles was almost like the aha thing where it's I think we could do this. Not we're nowhere in that. We're not in that league, but it's this is we're not comparing. So interesting and captivating. And I've seen them live 10 times, and it's been. I've never been bored for a single second, and anytime I've ever seen them, I've loved every minute of their sets. I think another band that really for me made it seem like something that we could do, and I was just really influenced by, was this band called Human Fly, and they're from the UK, and they're no longer around anymore, but they had this one album that was again, mostly instrumental, sparse vocals here and there, and that was one that really grabbed me. And maybe that for me made me start thinking that this is something I might want to pursue, trying. So,
yeah.
What about you guys?
I remember back near the end of the project back in the 2000s, a band called ISIS came around. You might know them now through bands like Sumac and Old Man Gloom.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so when ISIS was around, I remember I was at a local record store here in the city. I'd never heard of ISIS. I'd never heard of post-metal. I knew Neurosis. They were the godfathers of all in post-metal, and I love them, and I'm a big Mastodon guy. So I was kind of in this headspace, and I looked at this album cover, and I'm like, what is this? And the album was Panopticon. And I had no idea, and I just went to the listening center, and I threw the CD up, and I heard the opening track, and I went, oh my God, what is this? So for me, and I was in a band with these gentlemen at the time, and I remember bringing it to them, and I was like, there's something here that really speaks to me, and it eventually to us. And that was really a catalyst for us writing that song way long ago that is now on this album that has made a resurgence that we've reworked. And that was really us kind of flexing at the time and not understanding what we were going to do with it. We were in a band with a very powerful vocalist, a very powerful singer, and we were doing more progressive hard rock kind of stuff, and you know, and maybe a little more traditional at times, but not. So we were always willing to flex and try something. We never just did what we should have. We just did what we wanted to, and we put a lot of care into it. So then when we started listening to these bands, we just started realizing, like, maybe this is where we want to go, but didn't know how to do it, weren't ready. So it's been brewing for years, and through trips, like going to see bands and you know, having a pint or a coffee and talking, this all kind of conceptualized, and all that music we were listening to, like we'll list our influence, like Russian Circles is huge for us. We have traveled together to see them multiple times, flown places, whatever it took. And it's just been a great evolution, and showed us that we might be able to belong. You know, we just want to live in the neighborhood. We're not trying to do anything more than just be part of the group, you know?
You're drastically underselling yourselves, but I'll get to that in a little bit.
Thank you.
Anyway, I was surprised to hear this style coming from you. We don't know each other well, but we have worked with each other a little bit, and we talk a lot, and thank you for that. I really appreciate, you know, when I go on Instagram and there's a message from you, I'm like, wow, I thought he really didn't like me. It's kind of like you and Blake have...
He just doesn't talk.
You and Blake have great personalities. I can see how you two get along. Blake from Iwas.
They were pretty similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah, the deadpan humor is my favorite. But seriously, dude, where did you, like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around that you brought this kind of energy to this project. I always assumed that you were more of a straight-ahead metal dude. And by the way, God bless you, because there are these sublime moments in this album where you're kind of doing the shoegazy post-rock thing, and then, and I'm like, oh, hell yeah. So, what did you listen to bring your edge to this?
It's a good question. Like stuff like Pelican and Mesa, like stuff with a lot of different layers for atmosphere, and I try to use a lot of different effects and work with effects and feedback to create some different levels within the song. Like Terry is more structured, and I'm kind of more loose on the other side of it, so we blend together well like that when we're doing the guitar stuff. And yeah.
How much of what you laid down on the track was improvised rather than rehearsed?
It's mostly rehearsed, but then once we get to the studio, like there might be some parts where I get a bit more expressive than what I was meaning for, and it ends up being a really good take, and we just go with that.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on this album, pre-production wise, you know, lots of Q&A, you know, is this good enough? Is this what we want to convey? And, you know, we really did put our hearts into it, and we were ready. We really did prep. You know, it's not our first time out to do this. We kind of knew what we were going to get into, but we really wanted to make this about what we could achieve and not worry about, okay, you know, not being ready. Are we clicked? Are we tight? Do we know what we're going to execute? So we really wanted to leave ourselves a lot of time for that, you know, divine inspiration. I even had that in the drums. I knew what I was going to play, but there's moments on this album that something came out in the studio and I just kept it. I was like, no, something told me it needed to be there. So that's the way it is now. It's really fun when you can leave yourself the time to do that. That's when the studio gets really, really fun.
Now, you taught yourself drums to do this? I'm a bass player. I can't rub my chest. See, it's just ugly. Who did you listen to? Like, where did you start? Whose style? Who did you listen to teach yourself how to drum?
I would definitely say ISIS. Bands like ISIS, Red Sparrows, Pelican, Russian Circles would definitely be in there. I would love to throw Brandaler in from Mastodon. However, I can only bow down to Mr. Brandaler and wish I can be him one day. I really do come, and I think we all do. We'll talk about a lot of bands that may be genre specific, but like I'm all over the map. I've been a music listener. I've been a passionate music listener since I can remember. In the days with my Walkman, listening to Gowan's first album and the Bangles, and I was a huge Twisted Sister kid. So Dee Snider to me is the man. I'm all over the map. And my journey into metal was not traditional growing up in any sense of the word, or maybe it was. I did do my stint of AC/DC and all the rest. Metallica, and then into the Black Album. We are kids of the 80s and teenagers of the 90s, so you can figure out what we were probably listening to growing up. But really getting into bands like Tool, Coheed and Cambria, and stuff into the late 90s, early 2000s kind of opened my eyes, and I think a lot of us have similar tastes where you could kind of see what music was capable of doing, and it was expanding our minds, listening to bands that were challenging, like the Mars Volta. So when I go into drumming, what I'm trying to achieve, I'm never really trying to be anybody. I'm just trying to give the music what it wants. I really believe in a really organic process where you just got to listen to it because it's there. The riff will tell you. The riff will tell you what you need to do. And if you're willing to just channel that, I'm very fortunate. I sit between these two and I just have to lay down something and I just get to listen to the layers. And I equate it to spinning and weaving a spell. I reference that a lot. I just get to listen to them swirl around and make this amazingness. And I just got to make sure I keep them in time. Did
you ever listen to early King Crimson, the first couple albums?
Not me. No, I'm aware now, but I wouldn't call myself a fan or even knowledgeable in that.
When I'm listening, especially on Riven, you sound like the drummer Michael Giles, who was the first drummer.
Wow.
And in the main song, In the Court of the Crimson King, there's a little of the cymbal.
Yeah.
And then it comes in full blast. You've got to listen to it. Dude, the way that it was recorded, I've got these really nice headphones, Hi-Fi Man Anandas, and you were right there in the room with me. It is this beautifully recorded moment.
Thank you.
In the last 30 seconds of that song. And that's when I got goosebumps. I had to listen all over again and just let this wash over me. I hate arguing with bands live when I'm doing, but I have to. You are absolutely in the same level as Pelican. You are absolutely in the same level as Russian Circles.
Oh man,
it's very.
Oh man,
so this
that is really nice of you. You look up to those guys so much.
This is not only is it the best album I've heard in January, this is the best album I've heard in about 3 months, considering everything I listen to. It is, again, the fact that we have an instrumental album that is not boring. And there are so many nice, tasty layers. It's unpretentious. Like you mentioned Mastodon. I have a hard time with Mastodon because they throw everything plus the kitchen sink and everything is so overproduced. What you guys have done is spectacular. You two, the guitars have been working together for years, and I can feel that. This feels like a fourth or fifth album when a band is trying to peak. And I know, I go overboard. I know that. but I'm dead serious. Unless God drops the perfect album, this is my album for January.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So this, at the time that we're recording it, we're just a few days from release, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-released, or did you get a label? Self-released.
Yeah.
What's that process like? Like, yeah, tell me what you're feeling right now, getting ready to release your own.
I mean, I think we releasing this ourselves it's been a combination of like leaning on experience we had in the past, but also learning a lot about this new world that we're, because we've never released anything where it's like digital first before, and so it's been a lot of learning. But you're sort of amazed by just how accessible the world is now. You sort of go through a distro and you all of a sudden your stuff's everywhere, and I think that was like just sort of like mind blowing to me, that it was like, okay, it's there, it's on Apple Music, anyone can grab it, or Spotify, and then sort of like kind of monitoring. You can see what who's listening, or well, not specifically who, but where people are listening from and how many people are listening, and it's so cool. I know I'm probably drifting off of what you asked, but I think that's the most amazing thing is like seeing there's people from Finland listening to our songs. Like, what is going on here? Like, this is
it's mind blowing. It's mind blowing,
and that's been like the biggest thing. But like, as far as like the release itself, it's been like figuring out as we go. Eddie's been like, because Eddie's sort of been immersed in the world of like music throughout the entire duration that like Jared and I took a break from music. He's got a lot more contacts and stuff like that, and he's been really great with like the promo aspect of this, and like this interview is happening because you and Eddie have a connection, and that's great. So stuff like that has been really great, and we've been trying to leverage that as much as possible, just in terms of like creating some promotion for the album.
Yeah, back in the day, like previous long time ago projects, I mean, the previous band released 2 albums to its credit, and that was self-released as well. And this would be pre-iPhone, pre-Facebook, right? We've been in the van, we've booked tours on phone calls, and emails, and did it old school. I would mail press kits and do all these things and drum up as much, hype as you could in a pre-social media world. So we really took a lot of those learnings and what failed and what was great, and we tried to apply it to this one. But now we've jumped into a whole new digital world that we've all been a part of, that it happens a lot faster, and your reach is a lot farther than your grasp now. And it's been really fascinating to watch and kind of try to catch up now and go, okay, we're in this. Oh, it's that fast. Okay, here we go, I'm
going to steal that line. Being a writer, your reach is, how did you put that? The reach is farther than
my grasp now. Finland. We are getting
so much there.
Finland. I don't know that we can arrive there, but I really want to. You never know. But it's fascinating. Before, I would shoot like CDs into the ether and say, please listen to our album, and I would never know if you opened the package. I would never know if you cared enough to spin it past 2 minutes. I would never know. I just had to hope and trust. Now you can see now. You see streams, and I know there's stats to that. I choose to believe everyone's enjoying it. So that's great, but you see the numbers. It's really enlightening now in this kind of a new world. So doing it ourselves, we definitely leaned into a lot of our previous experience, and just, we all have a strength in this band, and we all take on those tasks. So together we're strong, and that's how we attacked it. We all had jobs.
And then you also have the wild card of Eddie, who's a secret genius. He hangs with like 3 or 4 of the biggest bloggers in the heavy underground. He's with Slightly Fuzzed. He's on, probably late night call status with Pat at Monster Riff. I'm probably the smallest. Everything is set for this. It's going to be an exciting release. I'm going to do my absolute best to get this short, tight, and get this produced. Now that I have the other gig, it's like my time has like evaporated. It's like I left the boiling water on too long, and now the pan's empty. I'm like, oh shit. What comes next? Have you, what are the live gig potential of The Endless?
Well, after this big one, we're going to drop this release show on February 3rd, which is we're very excited for. We really want to write. We've been really focused on this album for a long time. We really wanted to put everything we had into it, and it's there. Every last bit of everything we had, we put in this record. But we've got a lot swirling around us as far as ideas and riffs and pieces, and we're very eager to show now what we learned from doing this record, what we learned from writing these songs. We've all evolved, but we've had to pull back the reins to make sure that this album didn't get forgotten, that these songs weren't just, okay, what's next? What's next? Like in the old days and in a band situation, you write a song, you're in love with it, and then you write a new riff, and it's all of a sudden, this is the new favorite song, right? We didn't want to lose sight of these songs. We wanted to take them to completion, and we did. So now we're very eager to get in and start writing the next album and take what we learned from this drive.
This being said, like we live in Canada, in the furthest, most northernmost city in Canada, pretty much. It's cold. It's not a good time to travel and play shows for a few months. And so once we're working on stuff for the summer. We haven't confirmed anything yet, but we're working on some trips that we can do, like weekend sort of like little kind of mini tours and stuff like that, where we'll get down to Calgary and some of the other cities around here like Saskatoon and Regina and stuff like that, and see what we can do. But right now we gotta give ourselves a little bit of time to write some new stuff and just sort of like get creative again, and then get back out and start playing in the summertime.
Prediction: you're not going to have as much time as you think you have. I'm going to be pushing this hard. I think this is a perfect album to start the year. It's tremendously immersive. It's also got a raw sound to it. It's not perfectly produced. It's not like it's with a metronome and you've auto-tuned the guitars. And that you used an endless click track. Your drumming, the first couple songs, I'm like, it's kind of, and the bass playing, everything was very, root, following the chords. And then again, once you hit that third song, you guys explode. The last thing is the order of the songs. Like, did you just flip a coin, rock, paper, scissors, or was it deliberately planned to hit you, back off, hit you, back off, and then boom?
I would love to say that was the thought process. We sort of knew where we wanted to start, and we knew where we wanted to end on the tracks. And so there was the Hattie on the which is like the first song, and the last song's Future Archives. The in-between part, we had an idea of what we wanted to do, but we were pressing vinyl. And so vinyl is, you learn as you go, you can't have, you got time limits on each side. And so we had to adjust the order to account for the fact that it had to fit on the vinyl. And so, I think what we landed on was very close to our original sort of planned order. There's like one little change in there. And it actually was like, when we started thinking about the change, it was to move Reflection to the fourth song on the album. And when we thought about that, we were like, we want that to be first song on side 2 of the album. And so that's, that was that decision. And, between liking that idea and making it fit on a record and not having to do 2 records, that was really the order of the songs.
We naturally write long songs. So when we knew vinyl was coming, I had it on the whiteboard and we were doing time calculations to see what made sense. But song order is important. It is important. As a listener, I know all of us in this room are probably album guys. We like to listen to an album the way the band wants us to hear it. I very much do that myself. I can speak for these guys. I know that for sure. And when we were going down this path of checking time and track order, we had the conversation after we were sitting in the studio and we recorded Reflection, and listening to, for me, just listening to those layers and that just natural the gravity of some of the melodicism in that song, for me, I felt was so important that I remember tabling this to the guys and I said, this has got to be a top billed song, the first song on the second side. This is what someone needs to hear, you know, once they get through the first side. You know, I would like to think, and I'm like this with music, is like your ear starts to get into the vibe in your headspace. So I felt like Reflection, that was its time. Once you've gone through the first 3 tracks, you're now in our world. You're now hopefully feeling what we felt, or maybe you're taking your own journey, because really that, I feel that's important with instrumental music. It's meant to be subjective. I want you to tell me what you think it's about, because I find it very fascinating that I might think it's one thing, you might think it's another, Eddie might, and that's fascinating to me as well. But I wanted Reflection to have some type of spotlight. I didn't want it lost as the third track on the first side or the second. I wanted someone to go, this is going to hit you as soon as you flip that record.
Yeah, and Future Icon is
Well said.
a good one to have at the ending song, because it has a really trippy ending with the outro and all the effects getting like swirly, and at the end it gets sucked up into nothing kind of thing. And that's the song that we had written in that previous band in the early 2000s in Gate, that was left as an instrumental, and we brought it back into this one,
resurrected it.
Now it's like the ending song of this album. It fits really good like that.
Yeah.
I'm a total digital guy, but you made a point that I'd never considered before. Like, vinyl makes you be very editorial. It makes you make deliberate choices. Where, you know, Steve Vai with his 82-minute long albums, you get 40 minutes into it, and it's like, oh, for God's sake, let's end it now. Brilliantly done.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to end. I have a question I ask. I'm going to ask a different question to close. Each of you, one at a time. What's your favorite song in the album?
Oh, you put me on the spot.
Did it?
Honestly, I don't know. Like I kind of flip back and forth. I mean, I think the song that like I'm probably most proud of, and I think the song that probably had the biggest like kind of like evolution from the time it was brought in, like as like a garage band demo, to the point where it appears on the album, is probably Reflection. And so I'd say that's probably like my favorite song. I love playing it, and when I listen to it, I'm like, wow, I can't believe we came up with this.
What about you, Eddie?
Yeah, that's my favorite too, Reflection, because it's so like diverse in the influences in the song, and it's very melodic and pretty and beautiful, but then it gets heavy, lots of different emotions with the different guitar layers and shit, and it's a lot of fun to play it too.
I'll go off the map. I'll give you something different. I will say Shadows Wolves is probably one of my favorites. It has such a drive, but extremely laid back. I have so much imagery in my head while I play that song. I remember the first time we landed on that riff, and the sheer butterflies in my chest and in my gut when it was first presented, the idea, and I went, oh my God, we have something here. This is something. And I feel when I play that song, it's droney and it's hypnotic, but I feel like it hits you like a train. And I super enjoyed performing it. I get really pumped during it. It's hard to hold back. And I have to hold back on that song to keep that drone. So to me, that's the fun of playing it, is I'm a physical player. I'm an emotive guy. When I play bass, I am everywhere. Now I'm a drummer and I can't move. I won't be able to do it. It's I have to be tied down, and it's a fun experience for me. It's a challenge, you know.
That's awesome. Again, for me, Riven, just because to me, it seems like such a throwback to, the entire history of Heavy Psych and the instrumental side, but really the whole album. Folks, if you haven't caught on by now, the band I'm interviewing is The Endless. The album is called The Endless, and my love for this album, I think, is going to be equally endless. So thank you guys so much for being here, and everybody else, be sure to like and subscribe so we can keep bringing bands like this